I the a-hole for wanting to give up my son after discovering he isn't mine? Original post. The situation is nothing short of a nightmare. I'm angry, depressed, and sad, and I don't know what to do. I, 32 male, am shattered and don't know where to turn. My wife passed away last month, only 7 months after giving birth to our son. She developed peripartum cardiomyopathy, a rare and severe form of heart failure that can occur in the months following childbirth. Despite the doctor's best efforts, she didn't survive. Losing her so suddenly has left me heartbroken and in a state of constant grief. 3 weeks ago, my wife's best friend came over to visit. She was visibly nervous and eventually told me she had something sensitive to share. After some hesitation, she revealed that my wife had confided in her that she'd been unfaithful around the time our son was conceived and that there was a chance he might not be mine. I was stunned and angry. My wife's best friend was telling me this only weeks after my wife's death. It felt like an attempt to tarnish her memory. I couldn't believe it. I told her to leave and not to come back, convinced she was lying or trying to shift blame onto me somehow. The whole thing felt like a betrayal, and I tried to push the thought out of my mind. But once the idea was planted, it wouldn't go away. I kept wondering, what if she was telling the truth? After days of tormenting myself with this possibility, I decided to get a DNA test. It wasn't an easy decision. I felt guilty for even considering it, but I needed closure. Yesterday, the results came back. My worst fears were confirmed. My son isn't biologically mine. Now I'm in a turmoil. I loved my wife and I wanted to believe our son was a piece of her and me together. But knowing he's not biologically mine has left me feeling lost and betrayed. I keep looking at him, trying to feel the same bond, but the pain of my wife's infidelity is so fresh, and I don't know if I'll ever be able to move past it. I feel awful even considering it, but I don't know if I can raise him on my own. The betrayal I feel is overwhelming. And I don't know if I'm capable of giving him the love and care he deserves. It's breaking my heart that I feel like a failure, but I also feel like I'm not equipped to give him the life he deserves. Am I the a-hole? Now for the top comments before reading the updates. Have you thought to call her friend and ask who the father is? That took a lot for her to tell you. She could have never told you. The right thing to do first is attempt to find this guy and inform him. I haven't contacted her since that day. However, your suggestion is sound and I definitely contact her for his details, if she has any. More than likely she knows who it is. Be sure to apologize and say it was such a big shock but you appreciate she told you the truth. Do you recall looking back things that didn't add up? Did she ever mention a guy and put off like the person was a friend or co-worker? Did any guy stand out maybe at her service or anything like that? Did you look through her phone since finding out to see if there was anything on there? Look at her bank statement for unusual charges and when she could have been seeing him. Not the a-hole. It's not the child's fault. You should tell your wife's family so they can take him. I worry if you raise him, you'll always resent him. I'm so sorry for your loss and your wife's betrayal. Please get therapy so you can heal. Best of luck, Obi. Not the a-hole. The child will feel that hesitation and frustration by the time they're in kindergarten. They won't understand why, but they will sense the mood, no matter how well you try to mask it. Feelings aren't right or wrong, they're just feelings. But they can definitely influence others. Your late wife presumably has living relatives. Contact them about it and involve them in the situation. I wouldn't just hand the baby over to the state without telling them. But if an actual relative is willing to step up, that would be a better outcome. Not the a-hole. I'm sorry this has happened. Unfortunately, now he is a reminder of betrayal and a reminder that your life with your wife was a lie. It might be best to put him up for adoption or let your wife's family take him. You will never have the bond with him that you would have had if this truth had not been uncovered. I haven't told anyone yet about the test. However, I think it'd be best if I do so immediately. Now for the updates. I hadn't thought of contacting their friend, but I will now. The replies have really solidified what I have been feeling. The child is innocent, but I don't think I'd be able to love or care for him as well as I should. Informing the family will be my first step, then contacting the affair partner if possible. Adoption will be my last resort. Many of you may believe I'm a monster, but put yourself in my situation. I hope you all understand. Mini update 2. I called her friend, apologized for my behavior, and also asked why she hadn't informed me as soon as she knew. She said her loyalties lay more with her friend than with me. Okay, fine. I asked her about the affair partner and she said she doesn't know, as it was a one-time thing. Apparently, it happened during her work time, whatever that meant, and during the daytime as she'd been told. I'm not fully understanding, but it seems like she was with a guy when she was supposed to be working. Many of you are suggesting I go through her phone or other social contacts, but I don't know any passwords. I never doubted her. We weren't controlling of each other and we gave each other plenty of privacy. The next step is informing the family. Both minded hers. I want to clarify, I don't hate the baby, and I'm not so heartless that I'd throw him out of the house. Whatever happens will be handled according to procedure. I'm not going to instantly abandon a child just because he isn't mine. Now for the full update. Thank you to everyone who reached out with advice and support. I didn't get to respond to every message, but I really appreciate it. After finding out my son isn't biologically mine, I decided to tell both my family and my in-laws. My family was shocked and angry about everything, but they stood by me. My in-laws were also shocked but didn't believe it at first. They asked to see the DNA test results, and after seeing them, they suggested we do a second test with both families present, just to be sure. They said that if it confirmed he isn't mine, my late wife's sister, who has a 4-year-old daughter, would adopt him and I could take my name off the birth certificate if I wanted. I agreed and we did a test yesterday. The results should come in about a week. Honestly, I'm relieved with how things are playing out. There hasn't been any drama and everyone's been understanding. I've also talked to a lawyer who said getting my name off the certificate should be straightforward with the test results. Thank you all again for the support, and for those who offered to adopt him, I'm sorry, but your kindness means a lot. I'll update when the final results are in. Not the a-hole. This is heartbreaking knowing the last living piece of your wife's memory is just a reminder of her betrayal. It must be such a relief to have everyone on the same page and avoiding drama. I hope everything works out in a way that brings Sophie peace. I don't know. I think knowing she was a scumbag could also make it easier to let go of the idea that a perfect life was ripped from his grip. It's horrible in the short term, but wouldn't you rather have a dead crappy ex than a dead great one? I'm glad they are testing both sides of the family just in case a mistake happened at the hospital. Yeah, imagine if it wasn't the wife's either. I know a family who had this happen to them. Took a baby home, and 9 days later found out they were given the wrong baby to take home. It was a nightmare. Wow, what happened after they discovered it? Were they able to get their biological child? Yeah, they didn't even realize it wasn't their baby. The hospital called to let them know that their baby was back at the hospital and that the baby they had at home was someone else's. It turned out their baby had gotten sick. And after a blood test, the doctors informed the parents that their baby's blood type didn't match the one recorded at birth. I think they cross-checked other babies born around the same time and realized it was probably this family. They all took a DNA test, and when the results came out, they swapped the babies back. But there were plenty of tears and sobbing. The mothers had been breastfeeding the babies and were both quite attached to them. I think the kids are about 2 or 3 years old now, and last I heard, the families were still good friends. Next story. Am I the a-hole for wanting a divorce immediately after my husband's affair with a coworker? We have a 4-year-old. Context. Last week, I discovered Teams messages between my husband of 4 years and a coworker that were spicy, to say the least. They were claiming to have animalistic thoughts about each other, saying that caring for each other was their main priority, and my husband even told her that he thought they would be together a few years from now. Although the spicy messages seem to have mostly occurred in the last couple of weeks, their discussion history was long and extensive, with deep conversations about shared music, books, TV interests, things happening at home, and their feelings and emotions. One of my husband's messages implied that some version of this affair had been going on for at least 6 months. The night before this discovery, we had actually made a commitment to each other to really try again in our marriage. I prompted this conversation because I could sense something felt off or different. We both agreed to put in the effort. However, when I found messages the next day, There was no indication that he was planning to end things with her, despite our conversation the night before. I think he intended to try with us and continue things with her as well. As soon as I discovered the messages, I left the house and haven't seen him in person since. My 4-year-old son and I are now back in the house, while my husband stays with his parents until we make long-term arrangements. Given other tumultuous times in our shared history, including drinking issues on his part around the time our son was born, I met with a divorce lawyer today and I'm strongly considering proceeding. I let him know this. The problem is that, of course, he's now telling me he loves me, loves our family, and wants me to come back home to make things right. He keeps saying I did things over the last couple of years that led to us being unhappy too. I've never cheated. That he was lonely, wasn't in the right frame of mind, and that because it wasn't physical. He didn't actually cheat, though in the messages he mentioned wanting a part of her body. He keeps saying he wants to have a conversation, but I feel like taking it off text messages will just give him more leeway to avoid certain questions I ask. At first I was so sure I wanted to move ahead with a divorce. Now I'm emotional and confused. Am I moving too quickly with all this? Should I have a conversation with him first? Am I the a-hole? Not the a-hole. He's guilting you and is only sorry because he was caught and you deserve better. Divorce the unfaithful sack of a turd and go live a fulfilling life with your son. Congratulations on losing the dead weight. My son is the single biggest reason I met with a lawyer today. Thinking of his future and wanting him to have security in his day-to-day life is keeping me going. You want him to see you modeling a healthy relationship, not a toxic one. Don't stay with a cheater. Don't fall for that sudden change of heart BS. Follow through with the divorce and make it hurt financially. That's the other hard part of me. Thinking about the finances element somehow adds to the guilt. The fact that he's blaming you for his cheating is unreal. He even predicted the end of your marriage in his messages to his girlfriend. He just gets to be her horrible partner a little sooner. Forgot to add she's married too. Okay, well, I'm petty as hell, so I'd tell her spouse what's going on. Update. Thank you to those who've shared their stories, offered their perspective. This has been immensely helpful, and I think got in my head in the right space to keep moving forward. Or at the very least, not halted today. Next story. Am I the a-hole for wanting to dump my boyfriend after he lost my savings in a scam? I'm currently trying to decide whether I should end a relationship or if it's even reconcilable. My boyfriend and I moved across the country for my job. He works remotely. I am the breadwinner, making 4 times as much as him. He has lived at home his whole life and has never paid bills before, aside from credit cards. When we arrived at our new home, he was in a trading group and seeing great returns. He convinced me it would be a good idea to invest my money too. So I did, and I fully accept the consequences of that. It turns out the group was a scam, and between the money we pulled together, we were only able to withdraw $10,000 of the $25,000 we invested. I invested $15,000, and he invested $10,000. Since I'm the higher earner, I told him to keep the $10,000, and I would work hard to recoup my loss since it's easier for me to do so. I asked him to keep the money as a nest egg and not to trade it. Fast forward a few months. I've recovered. It took us to a nice vacation and paid for most of it. No problem since I make more. We came home from the vacation and I began looking at homes to purchase so we could start our life together. I asked him if he could contribute a portion of the $10,000 toward a down payment for our house. He then informed me that he had attempted to trade the money to make back our loss and lost it all. He never even told me about it or consulted me before he did it. He has an expensive knife collection back home, and it's worth noting that half of his paychecks go toward paying off his debts, so he can't contribute much to bills. He won't sell off the collection to put himself ahead in life. Am I the a-hole for dumping my boyfriend for being poor with his money and making bad decisions? Girl, what? You can't be this afraid to be single. Have some self-respect. He lost money you worked for and you let him off the hook? Hey, the first incident is as much her fault as his. He's obviously an idiot, but anyone putting that kind of money into something needs to do their own research, especially if the person bringing the offer doesn't exactly have a strong financial background. No, you're sensible. Incompatible financial values are the major cause of divorce. I think it's hard because for the first year everything was storybook perfect. Felt like I was going to spend my life with this person. Then the financial woes started to unravel and it's just hard to accept. I know what I need to do, but reading outsiders' perspective makes me feel more confident and serves as a reminder that I'm not being irrational. Last story. Ex-husband requesting I message in a group text with his fiancée. I have been divorced for 12 years, and my kids with him are 15 and 17. We have very minimal contact. I really try to text only when necessary. Recently, I sent a courtesy text to my ex-husband about a small purchase for a necessity for my oldest, so that his dad doesn't buy it too. The follow-up text from him was, "Hey, I just want it to be known I want my fiancé included in the messages. Whatever you text, she knows anyway. No point leaving her out. If you leave your husband out, that's not my business. Whether you like it or not, she's just as much a part of their lives as I am. So in the future, please include her. I'm not trying to start anything. I feel like it's a respect thing to include her. Fiancé is my other half, and we make decisions together. Thanks." Am I the a-hole because I do not want to message both of them? In the past, when I tried to include her in an effort to get along, anytime there was a disagreement, it became a 2 versus 1 argument. And they had what I feel is verbally abusive communication. In this instance, my ex said I was being childish, ridiculous, etc. because I said no. He is relentless in this request. Not the a-hole. I will message you as required about our children. What you do with those messages, if you share them with your fiancé or not, is not my concern. I intend no disrespect, but how you handle your relationship is on you, not on me. And, to be clear, you don't get to tell me what to do, so stop trying. I'm petty. I'll include her in the texts when you add her to our custody agreement. Until then, per our legal paperwork, I will only be communicating with you. It's not your problem if his fiancé is so insecure about a relationship that's been over for 12 years. I often wonder if he messed up and she feels like she can't trust him. I don't understand step-parent insecurity. I left him 13 years ago and have never regretted it for a moment. Update. My parents wouldn't give me a family ring so I could propose to my girlfriend because my sister isn't married yet. Original post. Just need to get this off my chest. My girlfriend's birthday is on Saturday and I plan on proposing to her. Our anniversary is 6 months from Saturday, April 29, and I think that would be a great day for a wedding. When my grandma died, she left all kinds of jewelry to my mom. She always said if I wanted one of her rings to give to a woman in the future, she would let me pick. I know my mom knows she said this, so I asked my mom for one of the rings, but my mom said not yet. She and my dad said my sister will be upset if I get engaged while she is still single and not married. It's not a secret that she's desperate to get married. But that's not my problem. My sister turned 29 in March and I turned 31 last month. And my parents said she'll be upset if I get married a month after her 30th birthday. So, I went out and bought a ring. It was never about money because I can afford to buy one. I just thought it would be special to give my girlfriend a family ring. I'm still proposing on Saturday despite my parents forbidding me to. I'm just angry that they asked me to hold off until my sister is married when she isn't even in a relationship. It angers me, but I don't want anything to spoil my girlfriend's birthday. Now for the top comments before reading the update. For her 30th birthday, your parents can gift her therapy. I turned 30 back in August. Never married. You know what happened? Nothing. The world doesn't end when you're still single at a certain age. Excellent encouragement for Opie to give his sister. I couldn't find a heart of gold, so I gave you a ruby instead. Best wishes for your future happiness. That's so weird. It's not like you're 17. A month after she turns 30? Does she own every month? Just wait until you start having kids or something before her. I get being sensitive to her feelings, but this is way over the top. I mean, they could let her pick a ring first and set it aside for the future. It sucks that they're going to be more worried about her feelings than excited for you. Then they'll wonder why you always spend holidays at the in-laws. No, not every month. Just the 6 months preceding her birthday. Oh, and also the 6 months post-birthday. But that's it. From too much sensitivity, she thinks she's the only one. That world revolves around her. I think like more drama will be in the future if it is not solved soon. Yeah, everyone has feelings that are irrational that they'd rather not have. Who hasn't been jealous of someone else getting what you really want? I remember being really sad when friends would be pregnant when I had 2 miscarriages in a row while trying for my first. I wasn't bitter at them. I sucked it up and was happy for them to their face, and I'm sure others have done the same for me. Everyone gets a turn in the sun, and a turn being sad. I hate the types who want everyone to make a big deal celebrating them, but they were bitter and drama-filled during others' big events. Her parents need to teach her this. Be compassionate to her, but life must go on. Good for you. Congrats. Your parents catering to their golden child suck. Don't be surprised if you need to elope to avoid your family. Better yet, elope and then plan a party after you are married. And now for the update. I proposed on Saturday like I originally planned to. I proposed with the ring I bought after my parents denied me one of my grandmother's rings. As I said in my original post, it wasn't about money. I could afford to buy a ring. It was about being sentimental because my grandmother always told me I could have one of her rings. I didn't do anything elaborate or public. I proposed over breakfast and she said yes. She called it the best birthday gift she's ever gotten. She had the same idea as me and had suggested we get married on April 29, our 3rd anniversary, before I even brought it up. So that's what we are doing. We both agreed we don't want anything huge or expensive, so we're going to keep it small. It's 1:15 p.m. now. About 28 hours since I proposed. When we announced the news, my sister was upset just like I knew she would be, and my parents were mad I didn't listen to them. I'm 31 and don't rely on my parents for money, and I just told my parents and sister that if they are unhappy, they can skip the wedding. It would suck if I didn't have any family there, but I also don't want them to spoil this. I wasn't going to tell my fiancé what went down, but I did once my sister started melting down so she wouldn't be blindsided by any of it. She assured me she loves the ring and thinks my family's wrong. Her family had the exact opposite reaction as mine and they are all happy for us. So that's it. All is well. My fiancé is currently at work and it may sound stupid, but I miss her. She told me her co-workers are happy for her, and I know mine will be too when I go in later today. Edit. I also appreciate all the supportive comments in my last post, so thank you for those. Where is it written that if your sister is not happy, then nobody else can be either? Your parents spoiled the heck out of her. She'll never find happiness with that entitled attitude. Good on you for your response. Congratulations on the engagement and upcoming marriage. Your family can go suck it since you're creating a family of your own. Now we know one of the reasons as to why she's still single. Parents raised her to be entitled and selfish. For her to not even be happy for someone she's supposed to love says a lot about her. Good luck with the wedding, OP, and keep those people on minimal contact. I wouldn't put it past them to try and mess with the wedding out of envy. An invitation to the wedding should only follow apologies and groveling. Congratulations on the engagement. Yep, none of them should get any more details. No information about the place, the reception, the honeymoon, most certainly not invites. Nothing until every last one of them grows up and shows that they're gonna be grown-ups to you and your fiancé. How long do the parents and sister expect Opie to put his life on hold for his sister? I'm sorry she's single, but that's not his fault or responsibility. Let's play Guess Which Kid is the Golden Child. I'm imagining a childhood in which she could point to things her brother had, and her parents would take it from him to give it to her. And they have no freaking clue how to cope now that she's pointing to things like a marriage and shrieking, "I want it!" And they do not actually have the power to take it from him. Opie's response, that he didn't actually need the ring, so he'd still be marrying, thanks anyway, is honestly pretty badass in context. Had he raised protest, well, it would have been understandable. It would have left them some illusion of power over his life choices. Oh well, never mind then. I'll get a ring on my own. Leaves them grasping at straws. I foresee you should buy a house for your sister. It's the least you can do for breaking her heart by getting married before she did. And how dare you get your wife pregnant? It wasn't enough that you got married first. Now you're procreating? Now for the second story. Update. I just invited my adopted sister for my wedding and I don't think we will ever speak to each other again. Original post. I am the youngest of 2 children. My parents always wanted a big family, but they had a string of miscarriages. So they turned to adoption. They had a baby girl through a closed adoption. Then 7 months after they adopted my sister, they conceived me. My parents said I was their miracle baby. For context, My parents and I are white. My sister is Hispanic and black. Growing up, my sister and I were best friends. We did everything together, and people said we acted like twins. We stayed best friends into adulthood, until she found her biological family. At first, I was happy for her. My sister always said that she felt like something was missing and finding her family seemed to be the missing piece. But then she started to treat my parents differently. She would constantly berate them for choosing to adopt, because she said adoption, especially transracial adoption, was wrong. She said that the experience was traumatizing to her, and that she wasn't properly prepared for being a person of color due to their color blindness. I stayed out of it, because her relationship with my parents wasn't my business. But when she made my mom cry after a particularly cruel remark, I started distancing myself from her. For context, she said that they should have gotten therapy for their infertility instead of becoming baby snatchers. Even though we weren't friends anymore, I couldn't imagine severing the relationship. And I definitely couldn't imagine disinviting her for my wedding. She was the one who introduced me to my fiancé after all. So, I told myself that she was my sister no matter what and kept her as my maid of honor. I changed my mind after she posted a picture of herself with her biological siblings. She captioned it, "It's been such a relief to find my real family. I finally feel like I'm home." I was beyond upset. I never ever thought of her as anything less than my sister. But apparently, I was never a sister to her. I didn't trust myself to call her, so I sent a text. "Since you don't see me as your real sister, there's no reason for you and your boyfriend to come to my wedding." I blocked her number after that. She blocked me on everything in response. Now our mutual friends are telling me that she's calling me a racist. I don't think there's any way to come back from this. I'm heartbroken about losing my sister, and I'm heartbroken that I never had one in the first place. Edit. Someone asked for context about a miracle baby comment, and a different commenter said I should add a response to the post. It makes both of us super uncomfortable. My parents think adopting my sister put my mom in the right state of mind to successfully carry a baby. They've called my sister the best thing to ever happen to them, because she not only gave them a child, but a whole family. Now for the top comments before reading the updates. As a black man who was adopted by a wonderful white family, I am shook at this. My adopted mom had a lot of fertility issues, and she took me in and two of my biological siblings, one half, since birth. It honestly gave us the best life we could have had. My birth parents did drugs and stuff. I can only imagine that life. So I don't know how some people could be so ungrateful to have been adopted by a good family, because that doesn't always happen. I was lucky my adopted mom kept in touch with my biological grandma, so I'm able to know the other 8 siblings I have and other family growing up. I'm 24 now and wouldn't have it any other way. Great to hear. My brother has adopted 3 awesome kids in similar circumstances. My younger siblings were all adopted from similar circumstances. Now that we are all adults, only 3 even talk to my mom anymore. I just get so angry. We were your real family. We loved you more than drugs. Gave you everything you wanted. Paid for any school you could get into. How dare you go back to that life? What a freaking waste of an opportunity. Just such a waste. But I'll never actually say anything because I'm white and can't ever really know their experience. Maybe cars on your birthday and a private pool and paid for college isn't as great as drugs. What the heck do I know? I also think that is why people sometimes worry about adopting between races. The adoptee can sometimes feel very out of place. Obviously, not everyone feels this way, but you never know how each individual will internalize their experience, being part of a family that is a different race than their own. Sounds like she's unpacking a lot regarding her identity and is unfairly lashing out. That doesn't mean you or your parents have to put up with it. Keep your distance while she figures herself out. Yeah, just because she is finding herself doesn't give her the right to be cruel to others. Yep, and this is something she should know intuitively. What a shame. Mixed children often struggle a lot with their racial identity. It was probably extra difficult for your sister because she didn't grow up with any ties to either of her biological cultures. However, your parents still loved and raised her the best they could. Nobody's a perfect parent. So to reduce them to baby snatchers when her bio parents gave her away is horrendous. Sounds like her bio parents may feel guilty and want her to be in their lives more. It's a lot easier to bond when you love or hate the same thing. Maybe they are invested in ruining the relationship with you and your parents so they can have her around more? Either way, I'm sorry you lost your sister OP. But this isn't your battle to fight. Your sister needs therapy. I'm curious if the baby snatchers thing was spoon-fed to her by her biological family. That seems like very choice language. Now for the updates. We talked this morning. One of our mutual friends asked me to unblock my sister on her behalf. I called her and we had a long conversation about everything. I apologized for blocking and disinviting her without talking to her first. She apologized for being hurtful in the post. She is going to delete the posts calling me a racist and publicly apologize for calling me one. We agreed to keep each other blocked on social media, because it will only lead to hurt feelings otherwise. She's still coming to my wedding, but not as the maid of honor. We're not back to where we were, but my sister says that is a good thing. Now that we got all our feelings out into the open, we can build a healthier and stronger relationship. Thank you for all the DMs. They helped me articulate myself while also staying sympathetic to her point of view. Update 2. The people telling me not to reconcile were right. And now for the third and full update. After my last post, I got comments and DMs saying that I shouldn't have reconciled with her. I should have listened. Yesterday, my parents offered to treat us to dinner. I couldn't make it, but my sister decided to go. From what my mom told me, the topic of my sister's adoption came up. They got into a fight about it in the middle of a crowded restaurant. It ended after my sister said that my parents should have accepted that their miscarriages were a sign from God that they weren't meant to be parents. For context, my parents are very religious. Growing up, they told us that God got them through the heartbreak of those miscarriages. My parents aren't perfect, but they didn't deserve that. Nobody does. And I am tired of making excuses for my sister. I'm tired of being sympathetic to her trauma when she weaponizes it to hurt others. I'm done. I should have been done after the baby snatching comment. She's not in my life anymore, and I'm trying to convince my parents to do the same. I sent her one final text that said, "I can't believe you would say that to Mom. What the heck is wrong with you? Don't contact me again. Go be with your real family and leave us the heck alone." It's either she's going through a personal crisis or she's just an ungrateful brat. I wonder if she told her biological parents that having her was a sign from God that they should be parents and not give her up for adoption. I don't really think so. She sounds like a hypocrite. Your sister will, most likely, regret what she has done to you and to your parents, and I believe it will be too late for that. Your parents should start to realize that she doesn't see them as her parents, and therefore they shouldn't see her as their daughter. Overall, I feel awful for everyone in this, including your sister. If you guys come back from this, which I believe you will not, it will require a lot of work from her part, and it will never be the same. I'm an international adoptee along with my siblings. We had a happy childhood along with our parents' 2 biological children. My brother had an identity crisis when he was in college and went back to our home country for a while and even got to meet his bio mom, who gave him up for adoption due to his minor cleft lip after his surgery and kept making comments on his scar. It sounds like Opie's sister had one and got sucked in by her bio family's sub-story/lie. What she did is not okay. This woman just threw away the family that loved and raised her. Somehow the sister completely forgot that she was put up for adoption by her real family. Accusing her parents of child snatching is beyond low. I cannot help but wonder what the real family saying happened to make her call them baby snatchers and all those horrible things. A lot of adoption agencies put pressure on young moms to give up their kids. Private adoptions can be quite suspect in the US. Am I the a-hole for kicking out my roommate after she used my money to pay her rent and bills? Plus update. Earlier this year, I decided to move into a 3-bedroom apartment. I let a friend of a friend move in with a quick background check and job history, and she seemed like a great person at first. We have lived together for 5 months now, and she doesn't clean after herself and constantly eats our food. She hasn't cleaned since she moved in. It has helped with groceries maybe 6 times. She also uses my products and clothes. Well, I happened to check my account online and saw all the money except $4 was left. I called the bank and told them there was a mistake. They said they will do an investigation, and once they find everything blah blah blah, they will have it in my account. But it will take 10 days from the starting date, and we don't know what that'll be. Well, that money was for bills and groceries. I have a 9-year-old child, and I cannot feed my child. So when my roommate got home, she had shopping bags. I told her what happened today, and told her the police are also in on it since it was over $1,000, and I couldn't let that slide. She gets antsy, And before long is asking how long before they know who it is, and I said not long. Not an hour goes by and she comes in crying with my card in hand and says how terribly sorry she is, but she needed things, and I had the money before she did and how she was going to pay me back. I told her I was reporting and was evicting her and to expect a notice to come. She called me a cruel and heartless witch. But she stole from me and my child where we don't have any groceries left. She loves to eat our food and not replace them. Was I too harsh kicking her out? Now for the top comments before the little update. Not day haul, and I feel like you know that already. Lol. Her not having money isn't your problem. She stole over $1,000 from you. Isn't that considered credit card theft? I'd press charges honestly. It's not okay at all. I already know she can't see her doctor and is off her meds, and this may be a symptom of everything going bad for her. I do feel for her as she was always nice, but messy. I get it. I was like that once, but my kid changed me. Yes, but she's absolutely not your problem. Your child is your first priority. I wonder what else she stole. Not day haul. She stole from you and left you unable to provide for your child. There's no way you could be the a-hole in this situation. That being said, make sure you evict her the right way. I don't know your release situation or the local laws, but for your own sake, make sure it is all above board, just to avoid an unnecessary headache. I'm going Monday to take care of it. You have to call my landlord and have him draw it up as he said I was responsible. I don't know if he will draw up the eviction without the money in hand though. We are sitting ducks right now. Not stay home. She's been taking your things and effectively stole your money that you had for reasons. You're well within your rights to feel completely angry about that. If she was struggling to pay her way, the least she could have done was talk to you about her situation instead of take without asking. I do see your point. I had to read it twice to be able to process it as what it is. If she needed it, she knew to come to me first, but she didn't. I still gonna feel bad and cry like a baby when it comes to time to get paperwork. Edit/update. One of you suggested to look for other valuable things missing. And I'll be damned. My late grandmother's ring is gone. Now I'm calling the police. I mean, I already was before this, but the one ring she knows not to touch is gone. That ring is worth over $20,000 alone. I don't know if she knows, but I never told her the value of it. This infuriates me. First you eat my food, take my clothes and my money, and then you take something worth more to me than money? Is she stupid? She knew that is a definite rule breaker and no going back. I'm calling them now. I'm stressing so bad. Next story is titled, Am I the a-hole for kicking my cousin out in the middle of the night after she said I chose to be poor? My life has been up and down in terms of finances. I went from rags to rags again pretty much. I have a cousin Alice who I'm very close to. She lost her job and ended up losing her home too. Things have been rough for her, so I agreed to let her stay with me temporarily while she gets back on her feet. A few days ago, Alice was venting to me about how hard her life is and how she just wanted to fast forward to when things were better. I told her I agreed, and she said, well, you're poor by choice, so it's not the same. I asked her what she meant, and she said, Luke would give you money if you ask him, so you're choosing to be poor. Luke is my husband, well, soon to be ex, hopefully. Alice knows all about my history with him and knows why I wouldn't accept money from him. I left him when I found out I was pregnant because he didn't want me to keep our baby. This was the final straw for me, and I've pretty much hidden from him since. Alice knows it was the hardest thing I had ever done, and she knows I never want to be dependent on him again, and I would choose being poor over asking him for money. I got upset with her and I told her that wasn't me choosing to be poor, and that asking him for money wasn't an option for me. She kept arguing with me and doubling down, and eventually I lost my temper and asked her to leave. She thought I was joking at first, but when I told her I was serious, she got pissed at me for kicking her out in the middle of the night when she had nowhere else to go. She ended up asking her parents to come get her. But before she left, she made a snide comment about how she wondered how much money Luke would pay to find out where I lived. Am I the a-hole? Not the a-hole. Your cousin was being an incredibly rude guest to begin with. The threat to expose your location to Rex should destroy your relationship with her beyond repair. Truly abysmal behavior. Her sense of entitlement is laughably tone deaf. Not the OP. But please have protection in place for yourself against your cousin and your ex. Not the a-hole by a mile. The absolute nerve of some people. You take her in out of the kindness of your heart, and she repays you by being rude. And then she has the nerve to threaten to out your location to your ex for money? OP, I suggest you stay with a friend temporarily and put a doorbell cam on your apartment. Because I can see two things happening. 1. Your cousin does tell your ex your address, and he shows up to try and do God knows what. 2. Your cousin tries to come back because you kicked her out and she wants some kind of payback. Tell her parents and the rest of your family what happened, and if your ex finds you and something happens, it's on your cousin's hands. Cut her off and let her be someone else's problem, because her parents probably won't want to deal with her for long with her horrible attitude. But before she left, she made a snide comment about how she wondered how much money Luke would pay to find out where I lived. WTF? What kind of fail threatens something like this? This just shows you did the right move in my opinion. Next story. Am I the a-hole for telling my ex that my life will be easier when she and her kids move out? My ex and I got together over 3 years ago, moved into my house after a year. She has 2 children from a previous relationship. We also have a child together who is now almost a year old. We mutually decided to break up a few weeks ago. I have my reasons and she has hers, but ultimately her kids play a big role in the breakup. Not their fault. It's more about our different parenting styles. Due to my ex's trauma from when she was a child, and the kids' by father emotionally mistreated all 3 of them, she had a protective bubble around them that was a massive source of conflict. I could write a list, but I don't see how it would be beneficial to this. Anyways, we broke up because we didn't want to resent each other for our child's sake, like the way she resents her other kid's father. They have been staying here until she finds a new place. However, she keeps making remarks about how I'm going to struggle on my own, especially when I have my daughter half the time. I've left it be because I'm pretty sure she's projecting, and she will no doubt struggle, but it is also the damn time. I was having a particularly bad day at work and she knows, and she brought up how I'm going to cope with work and our daughter. My life would be easier when they move out. Yes, I will be having my daughter 3 nights/4 days a week. I changed my work pattern, so when I do have her, I don't have to work, so I have no issues there. Looking after my daughter will be a breeze. I have no issues now looking after her. In fact, I make sure I have her more than her mother because I love spending time with her. It will be even easier when her and her kids move out for so many reasons. The biggest is that all 3 cannot help themselves and always have to disturb my daughter when she's trying to sleep. So she then doesn't sleep and gets cranky at once until I take her to my mother so I can put her to sleep in peace. All 3 are extremely messy. My entire house is a minefield and it stresses me out to no end, and none of them clean up after themselves. I also find myself doing more for her kids than she does. I always take them to school and pick them up, take them to their after-school activities, make sure they're fed and shower often, as otherwise she wouldn't remember. I also pay for everything related to the house and we only split shopping and petrol. So I told her that when they move out, I'll have more money to save because I will be spending less on bills, and this is after me paying more than I should in child support. My house will be back to being clean and tidy and will reduce my constant stress. Looking after my daughter will be less stressful because I will be able to put patterns in place to help. I will have more free time because I'm not spending it cleaning up all their mess, running around all day for her kids when it is her job. My life will finally be back in my hands. She didn't take it too well. It has been quiet ever since. Not today, Hall. Her silence is exactly what she needed. She knows you were right. I think mostly she meant that I'll miss her and the kids and how hard it will be, but his response was stone cold. Doesn't sound like he formed an attachment at all. 4 nights a week is primary custody. You should not be paying child support at all. Please get a formal custody agreement from the court. She should be paying you. And for the love of God, mention that you've done all the child care and provide any and all evidence of her negligence, photos of your house, days you had to shower them because she wouldn't, etc. It's 3 nights and 4 days. I checked the child maintenance calculator. It offered to pay double to what it says. I earn much more than she does, but I'm only doing it for my child's benefit when she lives with her mother. Of course, this will change if I feel my daughter isn't having the care that she deserves while being over there for one reason or another. Here's a wild idea. Maybe he cares about the other kids too. Disagreeing with her mom's parenting doesn't mean he doesn't care about the kids' well-being at all. Bingo, one of the reasons for the breakup. I believe they need to start doing more things for themselves, whereas she thinks she would keep doing it. And by we, I mean me. Next story is titled, Am I the a-hole for not giving my brother $15,000? I'm 29 male and my brother 28 male grew up extremely close. We did everything together. But when he turned 18, he got arrested and sent to prison for 5 years. I would visit him while he was in prison, but he wanted no relationship with me. Even when he was released, he would not reach out, so I gave up on working on a relationship with him. I'm now married, have a daughter on the way, and work in the government. My brother lives with my parents, does not have a job, and spends most of his days drinking. Then a few months ago, he texted me asking if we could meet at a local restaurant. We met and he asked if I could give him $2,000 to help him get back on his feet. The only thing I asked was that if I gave the money, could we build on being brothers again? He agreed, and I wrote him a check. Now he calls me and tells me that he needs more money. My parents kicked him out of the house and that he needs a place to live. I asked him what he used the money I gave him on, and he told me that he used it on alcohol and clubs. He asks if I could give him $15,000 and help him find a place. I told him no, that it was a lot of money to ask for. I offered to help him find a place that he can afford if he wants. He hangs up on me and sends me a long text that I have always been the favorite son, and he never wants to talk or hear from me. I did try to reach out, but he blocked my number. Am I the a-hole for not giving my brother $15,000? Now for the top comments. Not the a-hole. If he can't be trusted with $2,000, there's no way on earth I'm giving him $15,000. To add on, sometimes there's a favorite sibling for a reason. One's a convict and the other is an upstanding citizen. Doesn't mean I think that the felon shouldn't get some support, but you can't help someone who refuses to help themselves. At some point though, you have to stop supporting them. The main reason only one of my 5 brothers is dead of an overdose is due to my mom and dad cutting them off. It forced them to get a stable job at a residence. I know it hurts, but he didn't want a brother. He wanted a free bank. You did the correct thing of offering to help him find a place to live instead of forking over cash again. As soon as he realized the bank was closed, he cut you out. Move on with your life. Hopefully your brother gets his act straight one day. Not the a-hole. Obviously you didn't do everything together. Or did you and it took the rap? If so, then you're the a-hole. If you are doing well financially, $2,000 won't make or break you. But $15,000 is a whole other level of money, especially when it simply drank and blew the $2,000 away. You have a kid on the way? This is all for the best that should never be exposed to a drunk uncle. For the arrest? No. He and a few friends got in major trouble. I was hoping for my daughter to know her uncle, but that might not be possible. Now for the last story. Am I the a-hole for asking my sister and brother-in-law to pay to clean the urine in my truck? I, 24 male, have a truck, and therefore I'm everyone's first contact if they need to move anything. I typically have reasons to get out of it, but this time my sister, 27 female, needed help moving. She and her husband have my nephew, too, and are expecting twins next month, so bought a house about an hour away from their apartment, and they're trying to get settled before the babies are born. I had plans, but pushed them back so I could help them make 2 trips to the new house. My sister was packing things at the apartment and came with us on the second trip to the house. About 20 minutes away from the new house, my sister said we needed to pull over so she could use the bathroom. I let her know how close we were so she could hold it for a little longer. Her husband demanded I pull it to the nearest gas station, but we were about to pass it anyway, so again I said she should hold it for a bit. Well, she released a full bladder of urine all over the back of my truck. She couldn't get it all cleaned out when we got to the house, so I told her I'd want them to cover the rest of the cleanup. My brother lost it on me and said they wouldn't pay for anything since I wouldn't pull over. My sister's a grown woman that I've known my whole life. She can hold it for 15 minutes. Now I have a truck full of piss and half of my family isn't talking to me. Am I the a-hole for expecting an adult to be responsible for their own pee? You're the a-hole. Any grown adult knows that pregnant women, especially 8 months pregnant with twins, absolutely need to use the bathroom when they said they need to. Wow, I'm absolutely shocked at your idiocy and disregard for your sister. And for the record, I'm usually really understanding all these AITA posts, but you have actually gotten me worked up over here. Kudos. Yeah, reading the bit about how he knows his sister, she can hold it for 15 minutes, got me riled. Maybe usually, but not with 2 babies playing football with her bladder. You're the a-hole, OB. What an inexcusable, immoral action to take. To force a pregnant woman to embarrass herself and feel completely uncomfortable for no reason, after she already communicated the urge to drain the main vein. Then to have the freaking audacity to demand she pay to cover what you cost is a new type of cruelty yet to be discovered. I'm sorry for the language. I am furious right now, as a father of twins. You're the a-hole in every sense of the phrase, OP. I can't say it enough. You're the a-hole. You were asked multiple times to pull over so she could use the bathroom, and you refused. You don't know her body better than she does, and you clearly don't know how being pregnant, especially with twins, affects the body of a woman. I'd suggest you take this time to do some research, humble yourself, and apologize for humiliating your sister. Would it have killed you to pull over? Pregnancy can cause frequent, urgent restroom trips. Your sister has two almost ready babies pressing on her bladder. Sounds like she couldn't hold it. She's probably humiliated and upset. I doubt she wanted to peel over herself at your vehicle. Edit. I just called and apologized. I'm paying for it. I sent her the link to the post so she could enjoy my downfall. She's happier now. Update. Am I the a-hole for leading a woman on by being nice to her kid? Original post. This happened a few days ago. It has completely blown up in my face. I, male 32, was out with friends, and it was one of those situations where people showed up with their friends, and it was a blend of different friend groups. It was a courtyard cafe, so our tables were close by, and we were all occupying a good chunk of the place. I don't make new friends easily, so I was just focusing on my coffee and talking to my friend Katya, female 35, when her friend Marie, female 30, joined our table with her colleague. She is a cute woman with smart looks and a brilliant smile. We started talking, and it was your usual what's your favorite kind of topic. We were discussing cartoons, movies, and books. Apparently, we are both dorks who hide our dorkiness really well. Then, something unique happened. We recognized that we had an audience. Katya and Marie's colleagues were busy with themselves, but there was a young boy sitting with us listening to our conversation, and we noticed him when he chimed in with his own favorite show, Steven's Universe. At first, we looked at each other and then the kid, and then again at each other and laughed. It was so interesting that he had pushed his chair from the adjacent table to our table and decided to join our conversation. So we started talking to him and asked him about his life, friends, and school. Typical stuff. I saw his mother smile at us from the table, so she approved of all this. She was a friend of one of my friends and remained busy with her group. Over the next hour, we basically talked to each other and the kid, and Marie slid her chair a bit closer to me, and we were subtly flirting with each other. When it was time to leave, we exchanged contacts and decided to meet again the next day to see where things go. We are both single and share many interests. The kid's mom, let's call her Brianna, came over and we just exchanged some pleasant greetings. She described how great the kid was, and we all agreed. We all went our separate ways. I did give Marie a hug before leaving. The next day, I got a message from one of my friends saying how rude I was to Brianna, and that if I was not interested in her, I should not have gotten her hopes up. I was surprised because Brianna and I did not talk for more than 15 minutes, but I never showed any interest in her. I did not flirted, and I did not notice if she was flirting either. Not surprising, because that is one of my blind spots. I replied that I did not know what this was about, but I definitely did know such thing. I had plans with Marie that evening, so I kind of forgot about this, and hoped that it would resolve on its own. I went out with her and biked together to her home, Common in the Netherlands, and by the time I reached my place, I noticed that I had strings of messages on my phone. Brianna had gotten my contact from my friend, and was saying that I was an a-hole for being a father figure to her son. She said that he had not stopped talking about how nice his evening was with me, and how is she supposed to tell him that I had no interest in being in his life. I was leading her on by showing her that I could offer what she was looking for, but then I was playing this game of showing disinterest to make her follow me around as a show for dominance. Apparently, all the podcasts have tuned men into a-holes, and we don't see women as people with emotions anymore. I was literally sitting there with my hand in my forehead trying to make sense of it. Our mutual friend messaged me again and said that she expected better from me. She had found out from Katya that me and Marie had hit it off, and she accused me of being superficial and being a jerk to Brianna because she is a single mother and I should grow up and be more mature. I replied that I never let her on and they needed to clear this out because it sounded really crazy. To be honest, I have never been interested in dating someone with a child, and my friends know this. But I never said that to Brianna, so that was something our mutual friend either told her or was just saying to me personally. The next day it blew up even more, with half of our friend group calling me a jerk for stringing Brianna around. I messaged Katya and asked her what the heck was going on, and she said that she was surprised too. I'd assumed that something happened after we left, and was under the impression that I asked Brianna out and rejected her. I told her that I asked Marie out, not Brianna. I am seriously thinking I have crossed some boundary here by talking to that kid that day, and probably his mom is freaking out because of it. Now for the top comments before reading the update. Not the a-hole. You were just nice to a kid. Doesn't mean you have to go marry his mom. Also, kinda sounds like mom is using the poor kid as a litmus test for dating. Friend group or not, I wouldn't really be okay with my kid just pulling a chair up to strangers and engaging in their conversation, because it's rude. And even if I did think that was okay, I wouldn't think that it automatically meant he was attempting to be a father figure of any kind. People in general aren't nasty and dismissive of kids, but especially not if they're part of an extended friend group. Is any man a kid smiles at a potential suitor? I think you may have dodged a bullet and may need to keep the people agreeing with her at arm's length. Not a litmus test, more like a bait. Throwing the kid out on a line and see what he catches. Not the a-hole. I think the mother was using her kid to get to you, and the plan failed, so she could be trying to guilt you into exchanging numbers by using her son, which is cummy. Sounds like it. OP needs to talk to some folks in person, find out what story's going around. He was obviously talking to Marie, and obviously Brianna's upset that OP was interested in Marie rather than herself. This is a really weird revenge mission for Brianna. The mutual friends being flying monkeys is the most disturbing part. If Brianna's crazy, that's fine, but mutual friends whipping up a mob is bad news. Discussing it in person is the best solution. Find out what story is going around. Brianna sounds unhinged, and I'd be interested to know exactly what she told his friend group, because it had to be more than, he was nice to my kid, and we chatted for 15 minutes between the hour plus he spent flirting with Marie. Let them know you and Marie were both nice to the kid, who invited himself into your conversation. That doesn't mean that Brianna can expect a threesome or a father for a child out of it. Definitely block Brianna. But if the friends don't remove their heads from Brianna's butt and offer you an apology, I start blocking and ignoring them too. I can just see this nut job with her eyes peeled, looking for potential daddies from any guy with a mile radius of her kid. Not the a-hole. Now for the update. Important background is that I am not Dutch. I'm an expat, and so is Brianna and Ellen. Marie's Dutch, and so is our friend Katja. Some good Dutch people commented and were surprised how this could happen in Netherlands. And they're right. Dutch people are one of the most straightforward people I have ever met. I asked Katja to find out exactly why people think that I led Brianna on, because she was also under that impression. She contacted a few people and got the whole story, and it is crazy AF. The whole thing started a few months ago and was the brainchild of Ellen. I was coming out of her relationship, and she wanted to hook me up with Brianna from the start. I, however, was not ready to jump in and was not very social for the first few months, so the chance never came. Brianna and I have shared talks before, but I was not paying attention, and she never registered in my brain. Ellen had hyped me up to Brianna for quite some time, and that is where the whole issue started. She had her convinced that we are very compatible and share similar interests. She was convinced that if we could just have a chance, we would immediately click. I have no idea why she thinks that, because we are definitely not alike in any way. Not to mention she knows that I don't want to date someone with the responsibility of a child. She just thought that I would rise up, because I am so good with kids. This brings us to the day we were all out and I met Marie. Katja too had similar designs, but she did not oversell me and just brought her along for a nice evening. All this time, Ellen and her group wanted to introduce Brianna to me, but the way I clicked with Marie, they knew they missed the bus. So they sent her kid to our table in hopes of derailing our conversation, because we cannot flirt if there is a kid sitting with us. It was another matter that ended up helping us even more, because his presence removed any first-time nervousness, and we went from verbal flirting to nonverbal. When Brianna came later, she hoped to use the kid as an icebreaker, and we had a chat about how cute kids can be and similar stuff. But I never asked for her number, and she left with Ellen not so happy. My hug to Marie pretty much ticked them off. I do not know if it was Ellen's idea or Brianna's, but they decided that if they could malign me in the group and assassinate my character, they might end up drawing a gap between me and Marie. So they made up a story that I asked Brianna out and showed her down for being a single mother, and how she has nothing good to offer anymore because women lose their value to men when they are a single mother. This is why they mentioned the podcasts and stuff. Since Marie also has friends in my group, she would find out, be disgusted by me, and dump me. How do we know? One of the people sitting at their table dumped all their beans on Katja. What they did not expect was that I would be quick to ask Marie out and meet her the very next day. So when the whole thing blew up, she messaged me the day after we had a date. I already knew something made no sense. Katya and I explained everything to her, and she was very supportive, and joked that she has to work so hard to get this misogyny out of me. We created a group chat and showed our friends some pics from our time together the next day, and the whole thing was cleared up. Brianna and Ellen are outcasts now, and apart from professional relations some people will need to keep with them, they will no longer be invited to our usual hangouts. Everyone is scratching their head at what their endgame was. And the consensus is that they expected to isolate me and then be my only support system and redemption. Anyway, the only petty thing Katya did at the end was send my pic kissing Marie on her cheek to Ellen as an FU before blocking her. Unless there is a new drama from the two, which I doubt there will be, this is probably the end of all the craziness. Well, that was weird. Honestly, don't know what to say really, but what a dumpster of fire. Some of these people really just make me scratch my head. Are people really this naive and deranged? I can't believe it. I feel bad for OP having to deal with this nonsense. But I also do feel bad for the kid, because he was a pawn in this whole thing. Poor kid is getting mixed up with a group of deranged people. My guess is desperation. Desperation feeds on itself, and can often bring out the worst of people. If Brianna was becoming desperate for a relationship, every rejection would feed desperation back, and feel like she had no more chance. And when you feel you have no sane option to pursue, you go for the insane one. What a pair of deranged idiots. Their master plan was to manipulate him into a relationship by slandering him, isolating him from the friends, and waiting to pick up the pieces of his decimated and lonely existence? That sounds like a freaking delightful start to a new relationship. This is a plot reminiscent of The Parent Trap. Did a kid concoct this insanity? Because it's otherwise inexplicable coming from two grown women. It makes me believe that Brianna had a child in an attempt to baby trap someone, and this is just her MO. Thank goodness it got cleared up. If Opie didn't just not want to date women with kids, making this whole thing pointless from the get-go, the plan could have worked if they didn't go about it in the dumbest way possible. The friends should have been directing all their vitriol towards the other woman, and a single mom should have stayed out of things entirely while they assassinated the other girl's character. Then, when the other girl ran for the hills, or Opie decided he didn't like the person the friends were portraying her to be, the friends could mention that the single mom had said she felt like the two of them had a connection, and encourage Opie to reach out to her. Revealing that the single mom was a crazy witch who was willing to insult and harass him in an effort to force him to date her was a massive misplay, and it guarantees that there is zero chance for the two of them to ever get together. When you're trying to manipulate someone, you never lead with your massive red flags. Last story. Am I the a-hole for telling my husband he needs to draw clear lines with the mother of his child? My husband has a daughter from a previous relationship. For context, she's a 5-year-old. Prior to us getting married, my husband and his ex-girlfriend had what seemed like a well-oiled machine when it came to co-parenting their daughter. I've always said I wouldn't date men with children, and I don't have any children of my own yet because I didn't want that extra baggage. But to be honest, it was their co-parenting relationship that passed my mind at ease to become comfortable with the idea of becoming serious about him. I love my husband and his daughter dearly. However, her mother is slowly becoming a pain in my neck. Prior to me being in the picture, all expenses for their daughter have been split 50-50. There were no problems besides the little oddball expenses here and there that my husband had to cover 100%. Again, nothing major. It all started over the summer. My husband's ex-girlfriend wanted to go out of the country for a 2-week trip, and she asked my husband if he could pay for their daughter 100%. At first, he promised that he would, but then it dawned on him that she has been pulling this kind of stunt for a few months now, where all of a sudden she's unable to pay for her portion of their daughter's expenses. I then told her that he will pay for half, as they've both been doing for years. I don't think she was too happy with that, but they went on their trip in summer, and all seemed to be well. Until it was time for school. She told him that she will not be able to pay for half of their daughter's tuition as she's been doing, along with her portion of the household expenses for the home that she shares with her daughter, which essentially means that he is going to be expected to fill the gap. As a result of all that's happening, my husband said that now would it be the best time for us to start our own family, as he would be stretched too thin financially. We have been talking about having a baby for the past few months, and we're about to start trying. Quite frankly, I'm mad that we have to put starting our family on hold due to his ex not being able to pull her weight financially. Am I the a-hole for telling him that he needs to draw clear lines, that his responsibility is his daughter alone and his ex needs to figure out her stuff and start pulling her financial weight again like she's been doing? Now for the comments. Not the a-hole. She suddenly can't pay for childcare expenses right after a 2-week international vacation? Ex-girlfriend has decided to try to squeeze as much money as she can get out of your husband. Pretty much. Guess she figures new wife will help foot the bills for her child now. Of course you're not the a-hole. Better nip this in the bud and make sure it is working before you get pregnant. Don't assume if she does it once or twice, it will be forever. Maybe you are correct in not wanting to marry someone with kids. Not the a-hole, but they need a formal agreement as to parenting and payment of expenses. If she can't afford the school the child has been going to, then the child can go to public school. He should not be paying for vacations with mom. That is for mom to pay for, or she can leave the child home with him while she goes. This isn't a draw clear lines. It is get a formal agreement and hold her to it. If she can't pay her half of the home, then sell the home and she can figure out her place to live. This comment, not the a-hole. My stepson has bounced between our house and his mother's house a couple of times. On no occasion was either household responsible for paying for the other's vacations, household costs, etc. Child support is there to support the child in daily living needs. If the mother can't afford her house, she needs to downgrade or sell. If she can't afford her half of a school tuition, then the kid can go to public school or a cheaper alternative that she can afford. If she can't afford a vacation out of her own pocket, then the kid stays with the other parent, or they make different plans that she can afford. Your husband is being taken advantage of, and she's pushing him for all he'll give. I had an ex, and his ex said she needed more child support because her and her boyfriend's rent went up. Of course, he agreed, and I was like, so if you get a new place and your rent goes up, does that mean you can give her less? It was more things like that. The relationship didn't last. Poor guy was such a pushover that he couldn't clearly see it, or he didn't want to.